Welcome to NSC News Today, and thank you for joining us. Findings from the National Sleep Foundation's Sleep in America poll found that 60% of adults watch media in the hour before they go to sleep, and that was in 2011. Imagine how much higher it must be in 2022. Going to sleep with a movie or TV show is not the best practice of sleep hygiene, but is there a lesser of two evils? Is falling asleep to a familiar media versus an unfamiliar media going to affect sleep onset latency differently? We'll find out in the following segments. Our experimental layout was a within-subject design with 6 participants, where the manipulated variable was whether the participants watch a familiar media or unfamiliar media, and the dependent variable was their sleep onset latency. The participants were to submit 2 medias they were personally familiar with and then 2 that they were personally unfamiliar with. Any media that was known to evoke an overly large emotional response, such as horror, would be rejected and the participant would have to resubmit for more suitable material. Using a randomized machine, they would be assigned the media the day of to watch, which would help reduce the strength of the expectancy bias. Prior to the experiment, subjects submitted a self-report of their average sleep onset latency and average hours of sleep a night. All subjects wore an Apple Watch to measure sleep and submitted what the report said to the experimenters.
After this 5-day procedure, sleep onset latency was calculated for each day. What was found is that when a familiar movie or TV show was played, sleep onset latency averaged 13.42 minutes, whereas unfamiliar media averaged 27.42 minutes. Now, while this may seem like a big difference, when graphing our data, we actually discovered that statistically there was little significance between these differences in our data, as indicated by the overlapping of error bars. Now, the slight degree to which these overlapped is worth noting. So technically, our data may not be significant, but there is reasonable assumption that this could have been due to confounds within our experiment. For instance, one of our participants did turn out to be an outlier. This, along with a small sample size, could potentially have been enough to affect our data. So, based on this experiment, does sleep onset latency differ when exposed to familiar versus unfamiliar media? Maybe. When considering the data alone without any extremes, there was a difference between falling asleep with a familiar movie versus a completely unfamiliar one. This potentially begs the question, does a familiar movie act as a sort of white noise, a tool that has been proven to reduce sleep onset latency? The answer to this question could lead to avenues of research that would help people get a better night's sleep.